Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. And what's up, Robin, AJ? Alrighty. Well, tonight is actually going to be kind of quick because I'm doing a little testing of some software, which is Wirecast. And as you can see, I'm able to put stuff on the screen. So I'm actually going to figure out how to utilize that so I can actually still have content that'll be able to be posted while I'm doing a live show, so that way you guys can actually see the case that I'm talking about, possibly actually be able to read it. Um, you know, Pretty much my first day using this software. My face is like super shiny. But as you can see, you guys don't need to be afraid to hit that Cash App. There we go. Hit the Cash App or one of the other links that are going to be posted. We still have Super Chat. Don't forget, you guys can actually join a tier 1 through 4. The masterclass, the stuff will be going up this week for all that have already joined. We're going to have a couple more one-on-ones because I think I'm missing one. And Robin, you are actually like an honorary member because you paid for yours, I believe, in April. So that's before we even put anything up. So I got you and all the other stuff that we're working on. Okay, now they're saying that the video is, how in the hell is it not receiving enough? Let's see what we got. Hold on, give me a second, give me a second. Oh yeah, the video is kind of slow. So we'll figure out what's going on with that. Probably because I got 100,000 things in here going. Okay, boom, let's do this. Let's see. Alrighty. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me all right. Be sure everybody, when you come in, hit that like button. Now, go ahead and get into this because I'm not going to make it very long, and the podcast will be out on Monday. So, well, one of the things I actually want to bring up because it's going to be something that you're going to hear me say probably more often than not when I'm talking about where the channel is going as a whole, because my ideals that I'm putting out and the reason I'm putting this information out now is um, for the most part is to bring change to a world that's resisting change. And the reason this is because just like when I read to you guys, Woe unto ye lawyers, the Luke 11, I believe it was 52. The reason that was done, it was because there are a lot of things that are in our way that's a hindrance. And even in these minor incidents, we're running into things that we shouldn't have. Because most of the stuff that we're looking at should be the things that are being pretty much guiding those that are supposed to be governing us. And when in fact, these are the things that are being scrutinized and covered up as we're moving along. But today or tonight, this evening, I'm going to go over a little bit of the limits of the scope of warrantless cell phone searches at the border. The reason why this was brought to me was because I have a friend. He called me. He's actually in Arizona. He's from Chicago. And one of the things he spoke about was he was constantly being stopped by Border Patrol. And he was like, what are my recourses for that? Because there are other things. I'll get into it again deeper. And what's up, DLR? I actually did get your message. I'm not sure if you're getting my emails because I sent you two and I haven't heard back from you. So when you get a second, just hit me back to let me know you're at least getting the emails because hopefully I'm still not having troubles with them. But anyway, um, the context of it was, is there a recourse for him constantly being stopped, them searching his car, why they're doing it, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when I came across this because I haven't had very many cases where I have actually had interactions or dealings with Border Patrol. And in fact, if you were one of the people like myself that, was in a vehicle of some sort that was going across the country, pretty much most of this year, you realize that most of the Border Patrol checkpoints had been closed down or were not working. Well, I can tell you, coming here to Atlanta, they are alive and well right now. So they are up, they're fully functioning, and you're starting to get those pretty much those issues that that a lot of people are running into. Because even when you're talking about the interaction or what your level of interaction needs to be when you're dealing with them, it is governed by the fact that they still have to have something in order to ask you for an ID. They have to believe for some reason that you're not quote unquote American or an American citizen, or for some reason you're trying to, come into the country legally before they can even ask for an ID. I'll give you that case, probably not in this one, but in another video. But today we're going to discuss United States v. Cannon, and it's a 2019 case. And basically what it deals with is the amount of border officials that are examining tens of thousands of electronic devices as they cross in and out of the United States. Well, the thing is, when you're talking about someone's cell phone, you're talking about this is their life. I think mine broke and I was shut down for like a week because everything that I do is pretty much done with my phone. Everything that I'm working on is generally connected in some point to my phone. So, that's pretty much like the average person that has one. And I use it pretty much, yeah, I don't max it out as far as the capabilities, but I use the alarm, the calendar, notes. I have voice notes. I use the GarageBand. I have just a plethora of stuff that I use on there. And when you're talking about Border Patrol, there are certain levels where they can do warrantless searches. And they're done basically because they're given a broad stroke of it. And basically the Fourth Amendment affords their owners far less protection when you're dealing with them due to the exception to the warrant requirement that gives government officials broad authority to conduct these searches at the international border. Note that that's one of those. Now, when you're talking about Arizona, that's not near a border, but that's where the international border exception comes in. And that international border exception is 150 miles. Now, what helps with that is the fact that you still have rights, you still have things that they must do. And hola, Alyssa. Long time no see. I hope you're well. But United States v. Cannon is the border search exception authorized warrantless cell phone searches only when directed by finding digital contraband. Generally, when you're dealing with this, it goes into the exception for the warrant because it is only premised on the long-standing right that you yourself have the right to be protected while being stopped and examined through your persons and property crossing into the United States. And that's a United States v. Ramsey case, and that's a 1977 case. Because noting that even the border, reasonable suspicion is required for highly intrusive searches. And that again, United States v. Alfaro Mansanda. I'm pretty much butchering that. ALFARO dash MONCADA. And most of y'all are probably like, no, that is nowhere near what you just said. But it is what it is, because, yeah, we're going to leave the country in there. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with these, there is a set of standards, regardless of how you're looking at it, regardless of how it's being portrayed, regardless of how it's being done. You have an opportunity to actually be protected. You have a right to, man only has the right he will defend. Because if you're not defending those rights that are afforded to you, if you're not forcing them to go by the procedures that they are supposed to go by, then the application of it is the excusing of their behavior. And now a lot of times you're being told that no, you cannot hold them liable for the things that they're doing, when in fact it is your absolute duty to hold them liable for the things that they're doing. And in these cases, while being spoken tonight is kind of broad, they're actually those that put together a complete situation. Because, like I said, many of us are just sitting here and we're going through these things and we're looking at the understanding or the lack of understanding of certain words. Because when you're talking about even at the border, reasonable suspicion is required for highly intrusive searches. Well, when you're talking about a highly intrusive search, that's something that goes beyond a pat down. Something that will go beyond a pat down would be actually searching inside of something. Those are, again, warrant required because there are exigent circumstances. But there has to be a reason for those circumstances. So that's why I say law is situational. Because I give you a breakdown because most of us understand what our rights are. We understand what things should be. But now you have concrete backing of this is an actual case that is telling me not only what I can do, what they can do as far as this point, Border Patrol, and what their duties are. Because that's the whole point of this. He goes to border. Absolutely, because he's one of the dudes that I actually looked at, and I haven't spoken to him in probably at least 2 years. But yeah, those are the guys that generally have those types of issues, but they're not the only ones. That's why I actually used the situation of my guy that's in Arizona, and he's from Chicago, and that's one of the reasons why they used to stop him, because he has Chicago plates still on his car, because it's less expensive for his insurance to be in Chicago than it is in Arizona, because he works in Arizona, but he still owns property in Chicago. So he uses the Chicago property for his registration. So, but, either way. And then when we go into the United States v. Seljan, Seljan, declining to hold that at the border anything goes. Because even when you're talking about these situations, it is not a free-for-all. They still have a duty to uphold. They have an even higher duty, because their protection is not only you, it's actual protection of the border and those crossing over that border. And United States v. I'm going to have to learn how to speak Spanish or something, because this is horrible. Gutierre is de Gutierrez, and it's a 1982 case, holding that reasonable suspicion is required for a strip search by a customs agent. Now, I just read from Alfaro Mancana, even at the border, reasonable suspicion is required for a highly intrusive search. This is one of the things that was done in 2010 that was argued. Why? Because in 1982, it was stated that that is a highly intrusive search. Why? Because you're going beyond the pat down. Now, a lot of times I'll say a bunch of stuff and it sounds like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because at the context of it, we're looking at surface stuff because right now we're getting into an area where not a lot of us encounter this a lot. So this is not something that's going to grasp everybody's attention. But these are things that we need to know because not all of us are not going to leave the country. Not all of us are not going to travel the coast where these interactions could happen. So even if they're something that's a possibility, we want to make sure that we are ready and available and we at least have an understanding of what we can and can't do and all those good things and what they can and can't do and how we can function to make our lives a lot smoother. Because one thing I do, I profess for everyone, and this is actually just me rambling a little bit, but it's the understanding of protecting your peace. Because that's what a lot of people that are dealing with this is going through. You're looking for a way to be left alone, to be able to live in peace, to be able to just go about your day when you're not bothering anyone, you're not destroying anybody's property, you are just out and about doing what you are free to do. And that's one of the things why I believe most people are here. So you can actually have that opportunity and understand what are the guidelines for that for the most part. Because even if you are out and you aren't doing anything, that does not mean you're not going to have an encounter. Because we know, even through these court cases, that this system itself is horribly broken. The system itself is a thing that is, it's one of those things where it's just, it needs to be, if I was the CEO of this, I would actually tear it down and build it back the right way because that's the only way this system will ever work as if it should. However, that's not to say it's not working in the way it was designed to work because it's damn near flawless because we know that the people that are put in these places as volunteers to protect us, they're doing this in a exchange for revenue because that's what they're doing. Now, what happens, we go through a two-tier framework of the United States versus or v. Coderman, which required reasonable suspicion for forensic searches and no suspicion for manual searches. Now, at the border, I use pat down as one of those, I guess, less intrusive searches because, again, they still need a level of reasonable suspicion to pat someone down because they have to believe they are illegal for some reason. Again, that's a two-step. Understand that? It's a two-step, and now we're talking about two-tiered suspicion. The two-step of the manual pat-down for no suspicion requires just that. Manual, in this reference, the word manual, when it deals with Border Patrol, is talking about a pat-down of the outer clothing. Please try to use this as officer safety, which is BS because it's not allowed. But again, they still have to point to the dangerous area according to Terry v. Ohio. This is not a Terry v. Ohio instance because you have a broader sense. Because just like I was reading off the things from the Human Rights Organization, the International Human Rights Organization, where they were giving a guideline for the police to abide by. And, absolute revenue. And what's up? A forensic search would be one that, again, goes beyond that extra or that top level or layer when they're dealing with someone or something. So that's where you're talking about you're going into someone's phone. Now, if you see something that falls under the guidelines of the exigent circumstances or what do you call that? The getting sleepy apparently. In some areas they call it public display or plain view doctrine. But in order to go deeper into the phone, they would need either permission from you, which is consent, or they would have to get a warrant. The only way there is a reason to go deeper into someone's phone without consent and it becomes an exigent circumstance if there's a known contact would say something or someone that may pose a danger to either someone's safety or those that are around. So, but again, those are things that have to be talked about, because even when you're talking about going into someone's cell phone, that goes into Riley v. California, because going into an established heightened requirement for a cell phone search incident to arrest is something that is not equally available. Well, it's actually the same standard for Border Patrol. I was about to say not equally available. It is the exact standard for the Border Patrol. There has to be something that offers them an opportunity to get them in there. Now, here's the greater part. And while I understand the standards of Border Patrol, they actually have a higher standard than the police department. While the police department kind of shuns those with higher IQs, Border Patrol actually welcomes them. I'm going to say that one more time. While the police department shun those with higher IQs, the Border Patrol welcomes them. Now, that does not mean they'll pass everything that happens, and most Border Patrol agents go through a much longer training than a police officer does. But again, that's neither here nor there. So, but anyway, they're still under the same guidelines of Riley v. California. Okay, well, yeah, Thailand, because again, Thailand, they're given a set of guidelines from the human rights, the international human rights, blah 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 blah. Everybody's given this across the world because pretty much it's corporation to corporation, and everybody's got to function together. So when you're giving these sort of guidelines, not everybody follows them the exact same way. They implement what they feel is needed, and they implement it in the way that best benefits them. Now, later on, I am going to go much deeper into the border stops and the border searches, but that's one of the things I wanted to bring up, simply because they're still, even though they're at the border, there are very few exceptions when it comes to those rights that are available to you and their duties, even at the border. While not being a police officer, they're still government agents. They still have a duty to operate in a certain manner. So I thank you guys, and hopefully I'll start putting together a few better shows, definitely better live shows. And while we're going on, you guys can actually share this video, hit the Cash App, and pretty much let's keep going, let's keep growing. I love you guys. Dexter, did you get my text, man? Because I actually want to do a show with you tomorrow, probably on StreamYard. And actually, yeah, those would be great cases because, and this way, offering a secondary, what do you call that, view on it, I think that'll work out. And if you let me know, just, matter of fact, I'm going to shoot you my email now. And just let me know when you are free and we can do a show, man, because you've always been there, you've been on time, and you're always dropping knowledge for us, and I appreciate that. So just hit me up and let me know when we can do a show together, and we'll come up with a topic and a time. And I'll be on the East Coast for a while, so a while probably being another week. So, other than that, I love you guys, and Supreme out.